Somewhere in the rolling hills of Umbria, hidden behind olive groves and sun-dappled stone, stands a villa that doesn't scream wealth. It whispers romance. There's no golden gate, no paparazzi-lined driveway, just the quiet sound of wind through cypress trees, and perhaps, just perhaps, the rustle of a script being read aloud under vine-covered pergolas. This is where Colin Firth escapes. And today, we're going with him. Before the Oscars, the villa, and the worldwide admiration for his gentlemanly charm, there was a quiet boy in Grayshot, Hampshire. His name was Colin Firth. Born to two academics, raised between continents, and destined for a life far different from the one anyone around him could have imagined. What happens when a child who doesn't quite belong, not in Nigeria, not in St. Louis, not even in British classrooms, finds his voice not through books, but through characters? While other kids scribbled equations or rehearsed history dates, young Colin was watching people, their pauses, their gestures, their silences. And by the time he was 14, he already knew, not just dreamed knew, that acting wasn't a phase. It was his future. The National Youth Theatre became his compass. The London Drama Centre, his launchpad. And from there, the curtain slowly lifted. His first brush with film came in Another Country, 1984, alongside Rupert Everett. The chemistry between them was electric, on and off screen, in a way that sparked both cinematic heat and personal tension. It would become a rivalry, a fire. But perhaps that tension was part of what made Firth's early performances so deeply watchable. Then came Lost Empires, opposite Laurence Olivier, and Tumbledown, a haunting BBC drama that showed a very different Colin. Not the brooding heartthrob, but a man torn by war, physically broken and emotionally raw. That performance earned him a Royal Television Society Award, and caught the attention of critics who whispered, "He's not just handsome, he's dangerous. He's real." And yet, all of that, somehow, was just the prelude. Because in 1995, everything changed. With a soaked white shirt and an arched eyebrow, Colin Firth walked out of a lake and into television history as Mr. Darcy. It wasn't just a role, it was a cultural moment. British restraint met smoldering intensity, and suddenly millions around the world were swooning over a man who could convey longing with a single glance. But fame, as always, came with a twist. How do you keep acting when the world only sees one version of you? Firth wrestled with that shadow. For a while, every casting call was another echo of Darcy, so instead of running from it, he leaned in, but on his own terms. When Bridget Jones's Diary came along, he played Mark Darcy with a knowing wink, almost parodying himself. Then in Love. Actually, he gave us a broken-hearted writer who finds love not with fireworks, but with quiet persistence. Still, it wasn't until The King's Speech that Colin finally shattered the ceiling. Playing King George VI, a stammering monarch forced to find his voice during war, Firth delivered a performance so restrained, so achingly human, that it earned him the Academy Award for Best Actor. That night, under the glitter of the Dolby Theatre, he wasn't Mr. Darcy anymore. He was Colin Firth, a man who had walked through typecasting, romantic comedy, historical drama, and come out the other side not just beloved, but respected. But maybe the most surprising part? Even at the peak of that Hollywood high, he didn't buy a mansion in Beverly Hills. He didn't chase the limelight or race from premiere to premiere. Instead, he disappeared into the olive-covered hills of Umbria. Why? Because sometimes the most elegant escape is the one that feels like home. Shall we step through the wooden doors? Villa in Italian. You wouldn't find it by accident. There's no large sign, no gates that swing open with grandeur. Instead, a narrow gravel path curls gently through the golden hills of Umbria, past groves of olive trees, past the sweet scent of rosemary and wild fennel, until it reveals itself, a stone villa, timeless and serene, nestled into the landscape as if it has always been there. This is Colin Firth's Italian retreat, a sanctuary, not a statement. The property spans over 3.6 hectares of pure countryside stillness, an escape not from the world, but from its noise. Built in classic Umbrian style, the house itself whispers with history. Its stone walls have aged into a honeyed gray. The terracotta roof tiles are sun-worn and earthy, and the pale wooden shutters seem to blink slowly in the soft afternoon light. At the entrance, thick double wooden doors open into a low-ceilinged foyer. It's modest, cool, and comforting, like stepping into an old memory. This isn't the sterile gloss of modern luxury. This is aged elegance, lovingly maintained. Walk through, and the house begins to unfold. The living room is a poem in timber and stone. Exposed wooden beams cross above, and cotto tiles warm the floor underfoot. At its center stands a grand stone fireplace, crackling in the evenings, a place where, it's said, Colin often curls up with a glass of Umbrian red, perhaps a novel in one hand, a script in the other. The room is simple, but every detail, from the worn leather armchair to the hand-painted ceramic vase on the mantel, feels chosen, not bought. Move into the dining area, and a single piece dominates. A long, rustic wooden table, enough to seat 10, but never crowded. Iron chandeliers hang above it, casting golden light in the evenings. This is where family dinners unfold slowly, with stories, laughter, and no rush to clear the plates. The space connects seamlessly to an open kitchen, where a large industrial-style gas stove commands attention. Open shelves hold clay pots, herbs in terracotta, and utensils that look like they've seasoned meals for decades. But it's the outdoor kitchen that steals the heart. A rear door opens to a shaded pergola, its wooden beams woven with grapevines. Beneath it, a stone countertop, a simple sink, and a coffee station. Mornings often begin here, not with emails or press calls, but with fresh air, espresso, and the slow rustle of trees swaying in the distance. At the eastern wing of the villa lies the master bedroom, bright, open, but grounded in earth tones. Tall glass doors reveal a private terrace, and just beyond it, a natural stone swimming pool, long and rectangular, mirroring the sky. The pool is understated, almost hidden by surrounding flora. Yet there's magic in its simplicity. You imagine Firth diving in just after dawn, the mist still lifting from the olive fields, his world temporarily paused. The master bath features pale travertine stone, a freestanding tub near a low window, perfectly placed for soaking while gazing out at the landscape. Adjacent is a dressing room with pine wood cabinetry that reaches the ceiling, built not for display, but for purpose. Upstairs, or perhaps toward the other end of the house, are 3 or 4 additional bedrooms. One has been turned into a library-office hybrid. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves wrap around, overflowing with paperbacks, scripts, and European literature. A writing desk rests beside a window where the view alone could spark 1,000 stories. Yet the villa's true soul lives outside. The stone patio is broad, with weathered furniture and wine glasses often left out just long enough to catch the sunset. Grapevines hang overhead, and the scent of lavender trails on the evening breeze. To one side, there's a shaded corner with terracotta tiles underfoot, the perfect place for a glass of Chianti, a guitar, or quiet contemplation under a Tuscan moon. Beyond that, the garden stretches. Olive trees sway gently. A modest orchard hums with bees and ripening fruit. A dirt path winds through all of it, just wide enough for 2 people to walk hand in hand, lost in thought or conversation. And when night falls, the house doesn't go dark. It glows. Low amber lights flicker along the terrace and poolside, as if stars had descended to keep watch. It's cinematic, Not in a curated, Instagram-perfect way, but in the way old films feel. Real, grainy, and tender. There are no supercars parked in the driveway. No private theater, no glass elevators. But there is soul. Because this villa isn't built to impress. It's built to belong. To the land. To the language. To a man who, after decades of playing kings, lovers, and spies, has finally found a place where he doesn't have to perform. Just be. But just how much is a lifestyle like this worth? Let's talk fortune, and the quiet kind. You won't see Colin Firth on billionaire lists. There are no headlines screaming about record-breaking contracts or extravagant business empires, and yet, the life he leads, with its olive groves, dual passports, and the ability to choose stillness over spotlight, says more about wealth than any dollar figure could. As of 2025, Colin Firth's net worth is estimated at $25 million. Not the flashiest sum in Hollywood, but perhaps one of the most gracefully earned. The journey to that quiet fortune didn't begin with a blockbuster. It began with consistency, craft, and a refusal to chase roles that didn't reflect who he was becoming. His breakthrough in Pride and Prejudice didn't come with massive paychecks, but it did unlock a different currency: global recognition. That opened doors to romantic leads in Bridget Jones's Diary, ensemble casts in Love Actually, and indie dramas that let his talent simmer rather than sizzle. Then came The King's Speech. With that Oscar-winning performance, studios began to see him not just as a British icon, but as a box office draw. The film grossed over $400 million worldwide, and Firth's fee? Substantial, yes. But it was the reputation he banked that paid dividends for years to come. His financial picture grew slowly, like the olive trees on his Umbrian land. Not from one booming source, but from many steady roots. From film salaries, consistently in the mid to high six figures, to production credits through Raindog Films, the company he co-founded in 2012. From voice work, including documentaries and animation, to royalty streams from classic films still played and streamed across continents. Then there are brand partnerships, carefully chosen, never overdone. No fast fashion, no energy drinks, but occasionally a luxury campaign that aligns with his ethos. And while Colin doesn't live lavishly, his choices reflect quiet affluence. He owns real estate in London and a $5 million villa in Umbria. He flies under the radar, but never coach. He may wear tailored jackets and leather boots that whisper elegance, but always in neutral tones, as if to say, "I'm not the brand, I'm the man inside it." In the end, Colin Firth's wealth isn't about accumulation. It's about access, to freedom, to privacy, to purpose. And that, perhaps, is the true luxury: to live richly without needing to shout it. With a heart as refined as his voice, Colin Firth's story of giving back may surprise you. Let's step into his world of quiet philanthropy. Philanthropy. It began with a question. Not on a red carpet, not at a press conference, but in a refugee camp, where Colin Firth stood not as an actor, but as a witness. The question was simple. If you have a platform, what will you say with it? And Colin answered, not with a headline, but with quiet, unwavering action. For decades, Firth has lent his voice to causes that often go unheard. As one of the public faces of Oxfam, he's championed the rights of refugees, indigenous communities, and displaced families around the world. Whether it was a campaign video or a behind-the-scenes visit to crisis zones, his message remained the same. Every human deserves dignity, but his impact goes far beyond the lens. With his former wife, Livia Giugioli, he co-founded EcoAge, an organization rooted in sustainability, ethics, and environmental responsibility. Together, they launched the Green Carpet Challenge, which asked Hollywood's elite to rethink red carpet fashion. Glamour met green, and suddenly, wearing recycled fabrics or ethical brands became a statement, thanks, in large part, to Colin's quiet credibility. He didn't just talk about change, he wore it. He lived it. His activism extended to poverty eradication, supporting campaigns like Make Poverty History and Live 8, pushing for debt relief in underdeveloped nations and access to healthcare and education. His voice carried weight in rooms where politicians once ignored celebrity pleas, because he never shouted. He reasoned. Firth has also spoken up for the LGBTQ+ community, for women's rights, and against political policies that threaten the fabric of unity, including his firm opposition to Brexit, which led him to apply for dual British-Italian citizenship in solidarity with his family and values. And then there are the small gestures, like auctioning off his BAFTA suit in 2009 to fund scholarships. No press release, no ego, just quiet kindness. Because for Colin Firth, charity isn't a brand. It's a responsibility, a way of being, a continuation of the same elegance that defines his career and his home in Umbria, purposeful, rooted, and full of heart. What does life look like now for this gentleman of cinema? Let's step inside his present-day world, of family, solitude, and a deep love for the simple things. Personal life. There are actors who live in the spotlight. And then there is Colin Firth, a man who seems to have spent his entire life trying to find the quiet just outside of it. To understand his present, you must return to the moments that shaped his deepest instincts. In the early 1990s, after filming Valmont, Firth found love not in London or Los Angeles, but in British Columbia, where he moved with actress Meg Tilly and their son William. For a time, fame felt far away. Their life was simple, domestic, filled with snow-covered mornings and evenings by the fireplace. But as with many stories, distance and time had other plans. The couple quietly separated in 1994. Then came the whirlwind of Pride and Prejudice. As the world obsessed over Mr. Darcy, Colin found himself swept into an unexpected romance with co-star Jennifer L., a connection that bloomed in private and faded just as silently. It was the kind of relationship that felt cinematic, even off-screen. But like many things touched by fame, it didn't last. And then, Italy. In 1997, while filming in Colombia, Colin met Livia Giugioli, a documentary producer and activist. She was Italian, passionate, grounded, and completely uninterested in celebrity glamour. Their love grew not through tabloids or movie sets, but through books, language, long walks, and conversations over wine that stretched deep into the night. They married, had 2 sons, Luca and Matteo, and built a life that blended British restraint with Italian warmth. For years, they lived between Wandsworth in London and their beloved villa in Umbria. Summers meant sun-drenched lunches on the terrace. Winters meant evenings by the fire, Luca playing piano while Matteo recited Italian poetry. Firth, never loud about his emotions, found in Italy a language for feelings he rarely expressed. He became fluent in Italian. Not just the words, but the cadence, the rhythm, the soul behind them. It wasn't just his wife's homeland. It became part of his identity. But love, even the quiet kind, is rarely perfect. In 2019, Colin and Livia announced their separation. The news came gently, wrapped in mutual respect. There were no scandals, no accusations, just the soft ache of time doing what time does. They had already spent years navigating personal challenges in private and even reconciliation. But in the end, they chose peace. And peace, it seems, is what Colin continues to seek. There are stories that he still carries, of past loves, of fatherhood, of choosing solitude over spectacle. And there are moments, whispered among olive trees, that belong to no one but him. He has spoken candidly about Brexit, about losing faith in the political direction of the UK and choosing to become an Italian citizen, not just for paperwork, but for family, for principle, for permanence. He still acts, still walks carpets, still brings depth to the screen. But the roles he chooses now are fewer, more personal. There's no hunger for relevance, only truth. Because Colin Firth isn't chasing the next big thing. He's cultivating something slower, richer, quieter. A life of meaning, a life of depth, a life where love doesn't have to shout to be real. And in the hills of Umbria, with a book in hand and the sun setting over a stone villa, you begin to understand this isn't the end of a story. It's the kind of third act that most of us only dream of living. If this glimpse into Colin Firth's Italian world stirred something in you, the beauty of quiet places, the richness of a life lived with care, there's more to explore. Subscribe for more journeys into the homes, hearts, and hidden lives of the world's most fascinating figures. Because elegance is always worth finding.